we're even starting to think, in our organization, we think about how we can integrate the various services that we provide. We provide a wide range of services. And so, how do I integrate, for example, employment programming into housing programs? And how do I integrate our work with people suffering from fetal alcohol syndrome into our employment work? Well, it's the same thing around food. And I think what might be different as we go about trying to develop our playground in the back of this property, which is, there for our parents who drop off their kids here. We're thinking of putting a roof over that playground, so in the winter we could use it more. And then I think, well, if we're actually going to put a roof on it, why don't we put some kind of flat structure on it that you could also grow things on. And suddenly you have a program that even for the kids, being able, just think about how they'd access that, but even for the kids to start learning about food and gardening. So I want us to start thinking about how we can maximize the use of our facilities and integrate all our programming as much as possible. This is much more complex and requires partnerships probably across sectors. But we know there's, 16,000 kilograms of food that's thrown away every month at the food bank. Not because the food bank's inefficient, but because a lot of it's fresh produce, and by the time it gets there, it's out short, on a very short shelf, and it's often difficult to distribute all that food at that time. It does tell you how much waste is coming out of our grocery stores, for example. Well, what if, if I recollect, the food bank says that they lose about a quarter of the stuff that comes of that 16,000 is already spoiled. But if you could get the remainder quickly to a food processing place to make soups, frozen dinners, I don't know what, I'm not a cook or a chef, but you could use that to integrate employment into that, right? So we would look, how could we hire more of our participants to work that? You could think about meals that are being made for organizations like Bissell Center, Boyle Street, Operation Friendship, who already serve food. So how could you create food for what they already do? That would be because of produce and fruit and so forth, at least high quality. Or how could you turn that into a social enterprise and actually sell some of the food? Could you take some of the waste or some of the stuff that's not sellable or really processable for humans, and could you turn that into feed for farm animals? So all kinds of things to talk about and think about. And I don't really care if Bissell Center's doing that. We'd like to participate in something like that. So not that we have to be running a food processing plant, but how could we partner with others to integrate those kinds of things for people who live in poverty? And actually, great and better food going to places that provide congregate meals, being made by people who come to us looking for employment. That's what I mean by integration.